Before we begin, look at the room you're sitting in right now. Notice the empty chair, the space nobody fills. Now imagine setting a place at your table for someone who has been gone for 6,000 days. 6,205. You counted everyone. That is not grief. That is a performance. And tonight, we are going to find out who the audience was. If this is your first time here, do 3 things for me. First, hit that subscribe button. We tell stories here that take time, and you'll want to know how this ends. Second, give this video a like so the algorithm knows to share it with someone who needs to hear it. And third, and this is the important one, comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I read every comment. I want to know if you're in Michigan, or Manchester, or Montreal, because this story belongs to all of us. Now, let's go to the Lake Meridian Lake, Michigan. Population 4,200. A town where everyone knows the depth of the lake. 187 feet at the center. But nobody knows what lies at the bottom. On October 14, 2007, Lisa Whitmore added herself to that list of unknowns. Or someone added her. This is Willow Whitmore. He has been setting a 4th place at his dinner table for 17 years. He lives alone. He sets for plates. He sits at one. He stares at the empty chair across from him. He will tell you it is love. He will tell you it is hope. He will tell you that Lisa was troubled, that she walked into the woods to clear her head, that she simply never came back. But receipts do not lie, and neither do footprints, and neither, as we will discover, does the lake. What you are about to watch is a reconstruction. The voices are performed from testimony, from police records, from journal entries, and from the 17 years of silence that followed. Some names have been changed. One name has been buried. Until now. The morning of October 14, 2007, began like any Sunday in Meridian. Lisa Whitmore woke at 6:30. She made coffee, strong, 2 sugars, the way she had made it since her years at the Detroit IRS field office, where she tracked money for a living and learned that every hidden thing leaves a trail. She was 37 years old. She had been married to Willow for 11 years. She had no children. She had a sister named Diane, and she had, according to Willow, been depressed. Willow would later tell police that she kissed him goodbye, that she said she needed to clear her head, that she took her blue scarf, that he never saw her again. Willow reported Lisa missing at 7:47 p.m., 13 hours after he claimed she left. He told police he had waited because Lisa sometimes needed space. He told them she had been struggling with what he called dark thoughts, and then he produced a receipt. The receipt was real. At 9:47 on the morning his wife disappeared. Willow Whitmore was 45 miles away, purchasing a shovel, a bag of lime, and heavy-duty contractor bags. He told police he was landscaping the garden in October, in Michigan, where the ground was already hardening for winter. The officer noted this. Then he filed the report. Then he went home to his own dinner. But here is what the report did not say. If your wife walked into the woods at 7 in the morning and had not returned by 7 at night, why would your first instinct be to show the police a receipt for a shovel? The search lasted 11 days. 400 volunteers. They found her scarf on day 3, 200 yards from the water's edge, caught on a branch. The blue wool sodden with mud. They did not find Lisa. They did not find a struggle. They found a woman who had simply ceased to be present. Detective Margaret Brown stood at the lake's edge, holding that blue scarf. She was the only woman in command. She had been a police officer for 22 years. She had closed over 200 cases, and she knew the difference between a man who grieves and a man who rehearses. Brown would later recall that on day 3, she found the scarf. On day 4, Willow stopped asking if they'd found anything else. On day 5, she started wondering why. On day 6, she looked at the receipt again. On day 8, the hardware clerk remembered him, said he asked for the heaviest bags they had, said he paid in cash. On day 9, she went to Willow's house. He was setting for places at the table. She asked him why. He said she might come home for dinner. That was day 9. He was already performing, and she was about to spend the next 17 years trying to prove what she already knew in her body. 17 years is a long time to keep a house exactly as it was, to leave a dead woman's clothes in the closet, her toothbrush in the cup, her car in the garage, a 2004 blue sedan that has not run since 2007, that still has her sunglasses on the dashboard. Willow, in present day, says he could not bear to change anything. She might come back. People do come back. You read about it. Amnesia, witness protection. They start a new life. Then something triggers the memory, and they find their way home. But Lisa Whitmore was not in witness protection. Lisa Whitmore was a dead woman. Everyone in Meridian knew it. The only person who seemed determined to behave as if she were merely delayed was the man who had, by every reasonable measure, the most to gain from her absence. Detective Brown retired in 2019. She did not retire happily. She retired because the case had been moved to cold storage, because the district attorney had declined to prosecute 3 times, because her marriage had ended when her husband asked if she loved Lisa Whitmore more than she loved him, and because she had no answer that would not be a lie. But retirement did not end the investigation. It simply changed the budget. Brown was now funding the search for Lisa Whitmore out of her pension, and she was about to knock on Willow Whitmore's door for the 43rd time. Willow opens the door. He is not surprised. He asks if she would like coffee. She always says no. He says, "You always say no. One day you'll say yes, and I'll be out of cream." Brown tells him she is working on a book. She needs to interview him for closure. Willow replies, "Closure. That's a word people use when they want to open something." Brown tells Willow she is writing a book about unsolved disappearances. This is true. She tells him she wants his perspective as a grieving husband. This is less true. What she wants is to see if he still sets the 4th place. He does. She wants to see if his hands shake when he talks about the morning of October 14th. They do not. And that is the detail that keeps her awake. Because here is what 17 years of grief does to a body. It stoops the shoulders. It hollows the cheeks. It trembles the hands. Grief is not a performance of stillness. Grief is a weathering. And Willow Whitmore looks like a man who has been kept in a climate-controlled room. Brown opens a file. She slides a photograph across the table. It is a journal, leather-bound, water-stained. She asks Willow if he recognizes it. He says Lisa kept a journal. He did not know any survived. Brown tells him this one did not simply survive. It was hidden in a storage unit that belonged to Diane. Diane died in 2019. The unit was auctioned last month. The buyer was a podcaster. The podcaster gave it to Brown. The chain of custody is broken, but the words are intact. The journal opens. Lisa's handwriting fills the page, and a voice, younger, softer, Midwestern, begins to read, September 30th, 2007. Willow thinks I don't know about the account. He thinks I don't know about her. He thinks I'm still the girl who believed him when he said business trip. I'm not that girl anymore. I'm the woman who knows where the bodies are buried, metaphorically. I hope. Lisa Whitmore wrote those words 14 days before she disappeared. She was not depressed. She was not troubled. She was informed. She was angry. And she was leaving a trail, not for the police, who she suspected would believe her husband before they believed her. She was leaving a trail for a woman. Any woman, a sister, a detective, a stranger watching a documentary 17 years later. She was leaving a trail for you. On October 16th, 2007, 2 days after Lisa disappeared, a forensic team returned to the area where the scarf had been found. They found it. 2 sets of footprints in the mud leading toward the lake's edge. One matched Lisa's boots, size 8, rubber sole, worn at the heel in the way women's walking boots wear when they favor their right leg. Lisa favored her right leg. She had since a childhood fall from a horse. Willow would mention this detail often in interviews. It made him sound observant. It also proved he knew which boots she was wearing. The second set of prints was a men's size 11 work boot. Deep tread, heavy weight. Willow Whitmore wears a size 10, but work boots run large. And on the morning of October 14th, 2007, Willow Whitmore purchased work boots at Hartley's Hardware. The clerk remembered. Size 11. He tried them on. Said he needed something heavy for outdoor work. The 2 sets of footprints walked side by side for 240 yards. Then the second set stopped, turned, and walked back toward the road, alone. The first set continued to the water's edge, and stopped, as if the person wearing them had simply stepped into the lake and kept walking, which is, of course, exactly what Willow told police his wife had done. Brown stood at the water's edge and looked at those prints for an hour. 2 sets going in, 1 set coming out, and she thought, either Lisa walked into that lake with a man who then walked away, or a man walked her to the lake and made it look like she walked herself. But there was no third set. There was no struggle. There was just a woman who, according to her husband, was depressed, walking into cold water in October, wearing her favorite scarf, without leaving a note. In present day, Brown confronts Willow with the journal entry, the kitchen, for places. She tells him she knew about the account, Willow. She knew about Catherine. She wasn't depressed. She was angry. Willow's face does not change, but his thumb begins to tap the table, once, twice, 3 times, 4, he says. Lisa had a vivid imagination. She was troubled. I told the police that. I told them she saw things that weren't there. I told them she accused me of affairs I wasn't having. Brown replies. The journal says she was a forensic accountant for 11 years. She specialized in finding what people hid. She found your account. She found Catherine Marsh. She found the deposits. She found the shell company. That isn't imagination, Willow. That is competence. And you know the difference between a woman who is depressed and a woman who is angry? A depressed woman hurts herself. An angry woman hurts the man who made her that way. Willow stands. He walks to the window. He looks out at the lake. It is visible from his kitchen. It has always been visible, he says. You think I killed my wife, detective. You've thought it for 17 years. You think I walked her to that lake and watched her drown, or held her under, or put her in a bag with lime and stones and drove her to a place you haven't found yet. You think I set this table every night because guilt needs an audience. And maybe you're right. Maybe I did kill her, but not the way you think, not where you think, and not on the day you think. And that was the moment I realized. We were not investigating a disappearance. We were being invited to one. If you're still with me, hit that like button. Comment below if you've ever had a moment where you realized someone was performing grief instead of feeling it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. The lake hasn't given up all its secrets. Not even close. On October 13, 2007, the day before she disappeared, Lisa Whitmore made a withdrawal from her personal safe deposit box at First National Bank of Grand Rapids. She had held the box for 8 years. She had accessed it 3 times. On this day, she removed everything: photographs, documents, a leather ledger, and a key. She told the bank manager she was updating her files. The manager remembered because Lisa Whitmore, who never made small talk, was crying. Accountants do not cry in banks. Not where anyone can see. Lisa was not updating files. She was collecting evidence. And the evidence told a story her husband did not know she could read. Lisa had been tracking deposits into an account in Grand Rapids for 6 months. The account belonged to a woman named Catherine Marsh. Catherine Marsh received $4,000 every month. The deposits came from a shell company called Great Lakes Property Holdings. Great Lakes Property Holdings was registered to a man named Arthur Whitmore. Arthur Whitmore was Willow Whitmore's father. Arthur Whitmore had been dead for 6 years, or so the death certificate said. Lisa was a forensic accountant. She knew how to follow money the way a hunter follows blood. She knew that $4,000 a month for 6 years equals to $188,000. She knew that Catherine Marsh had purchased a house in 2004, 3 years after Arthur Whitmore's supposed death, for cash. And she knew, because she had requested the birth records, that Catherine Marsh had a son, born in 2003. The boy had Arthur Whitmore's eyes, and Willow Whitmore's smile. Lisa did not confront Willow. A woman who has been married for 11 years learns when confrontation works, and when it simply warns the enemy. Instead, Lisa made copies. She made notes. She visited the house in Grand Rapids 3 times, always from a distance, always in her sister's car, always wearing Diane's sunglasses. She took photographs. She recorded license plates. And on September 30th, 2007, she wrote the journal entry that Detective Brown would read 17 years later. I know who she is. I know who the boy is. I know why the money flows. And I know that if I go to the police with this, Willow will say I'm paranoid. He will say I'm depressed. He will say I'm imagining affairs that don't exist. He has been saying it for months. He has been preparing the ground. So I am preparing something else. I am preparing to be believed, even if it takes 17 years. Lisa wrote 17 years on September 30th, 2007. She disappeared 14 days later, and 17 years later, we are reading her words. If you are not unsettled by that precision, you should be. In March of 2008, Detective Brown knocked on Catherine Marsh's door. She had the property records. She had the deposit slips. She had a photograph of Catherine Marsh holding a child who looked disturbingly like the man. She was investigating. She was told by her lieutenant to stop. She was told there was no connection to Lisa's disappearance. She kept the photograph. She kept the address. And she kept visiting, once a year, until the house was sold in 2019. In present day, Brown shows the Polaroid. It is worn at the edges. It has lived in her wallet for 16 years, she says. Look at the eyes. Look at the jaw. That is not a stranger's child. That is a Whitmore. And if that is a Whitmore, then Arthur Whitmore was not dead when he was declared dead. And if Arthur was not dead, then Willow collected $400,000 in life insurance fraudulently. And if Willow committed fraud, then Lisa, who was about to expose it, was not depressed. She was dangerous. To him, to his father, to the whole architecture of lies they had built. But here is the question that kept Brown awake. If Lisa knew about the fraud, if she had the evidence, if she was preparing to expose it, why did she walk into the woods on October 14th? Why did she not go to the FBI? Why did she not simply leave? Unless she did not walk into the woods willingly. Unless someone told her there was something in the woods she needed to see. Diane Whitfield was Lisa's older sister by 4 years. She was a nurse at St. Mary's in Grand Rapids. She was divorced. She had one daughter, Sarah, and she had a box in her closet that she told Sarah about only once. If anything ever happens to me, give this to the police. Not to Willow, to the police. Diane died in her sleep in March of 2019. A cerebral aneurysm. Sarah found the box in November of 2022. She was cleaning out the house to sell it. The box was behind winter coats. It was labeled, in Diane's handwriting, for Lisa, for justice. Do not open unless I am gone. Sarah didn't open it right away. She thought it was her mother's private stuff. But the label said for Lisa, and Lisa had been gone for 12 years by then. So she opened it, and she didn't sleep for 3 days. Inside, a journal, a ledger, a cassette tape, a key. The cassette was recorded on September 30th, 2007, the same day as the journal entry. Lisa's voice, distorted by age and cheap recording equipment, but unmistakable, clear, angry, terrified, and devastatingly precise. Diane, if you're hearing this, I'm either dead or I've left. If I've left, I'm sorry. If I'm dead, check the lake, check the cabin, check the place he thinks I never went. And Diane, don't trust him. He cries at funerals. He cried at Mom's funeral. He didn't cry because he was sad. He cried because he was relieved, because Mom knew. Mom saw him with Catherine, at the mall. In 2004, she told me she wasn't sure, but she was sure, and he knew she was sure. And now she's dead too, and I'm next. Unless I can make myself too visible to kill. This tape is visibility. This journal is visibility. If you're hearing this, make me visible, please. Lisa recorded that message 14 days before she disappeared. She believed her mother-in-law's death, officially a heart attack, was not natural. She believed her husband was capable of arranging death, and she believed that the only way to survive was to become too documented to destroy. She was wrong, but she was not wrong about everything. Brown first heard that tape in January of 2023. Sarah brought it to her. She said, "My mother told me to give it to the police. You're the only police I trust." Brown was retired. She had no badge. She had no authority. She had a tape and a journal and a photograph and 17 years of knowing she was right. And she sat in her car and she listened to Lisa Whitmore speak from the grave. And she made a promise she did not know if she could keep. What promise? She promised her she would set the table right. 12 miles from Meridian Lake, there is a cabin on a dirt road that does not appear on most maps. It was built in 1987. It was purchased by Arthur Whitmore in 1995. It was transferred to Willow in 2001, the same year Arthur died. It was sold by Willow in January of 2008, 3 months after Lisa disappeared, for cash, to a buyer who does not exist. The deed was signed by a man named Harold Finch. Harold Finch died in 2003. There is only a cabin that no longer belongs to anyone, and a photograph that should not exist. In June of 2023, a local teenager named Marcus Chen was exploring the cabin ruins. He found a Polaroid camera in a metal lockbox beneath the floorboards. Inside the camera, 3 unused film cartridges, and 1 developed photograph that had never been removed from the ejection slot. The photograph was water damaged at the edges, but the center was clear, devastatingly clear. The photograph shows Lisa Whitmore. She is sitting on the cabin porch. She is holding a newspaper. The date on the newspaper is October 15th, 2007, the day after she disappeared. She is wearing the blue scarf. She is smiling. She is alive. And she is not alone. Standing in the doorway behind her, half in shadow, is a man. His face is obscured, but his boots are visible. Size 11 work boots. And his hand, resting on the doorframe, wears a ring. A college ring. Custom. Engraved. Wilow's ring. The man in the photograph is wearing Willow Whitmore's ring, Willow Whitmore's boots, Willow Whitmore's coat. But the face is wrong. The jaw is too heavy. The hair is too white. The posture is too old. This is not Willow Whitmore at 39. This is someone else. Someone who wore Willow's clothes. Someone who walked in Willow's boots. Someone who posed with a dead woman, or a woman who would soon be dead, and let her hold a newspaper to prove she was alive, when she was not. Lisa Whitmore was not alive on October 15, 2007, not in any way that matters. She was preserved. She was displayed. She was made to hold a newspaper and smile for a camera so that someone, someday, could prove she had not died on October 14th, so that the alibi would hold, so that the lake would keep its secret, so that Willow Whitmore could keep setting for places at a table and calling it grief. Brown holds the photograph. Her hands shake. For the first time in 17 years, she is afraid. She says, "I don't know who that is. I don't know who that man is. But I know what he did. He wore Willow's clothes. He walked in Willow's boots. He made it look like Willow was with her after she disappeared. Or he made it look like Willow was never with her at all. He created confusion. And confusion is the best friend of a man who needs to bury a woman, and bury the truth in the same hole. But who was he? And where was Willow? And why would any man, any father, any husband, any human being, pose with a dead woman on a porch and call it a photograph? The answer was in the ring. The answer was in the boots. The answer was in a death certificate from 2001 that should have been the end of a story, but was instead the beginning. We're halfway through this story. If you've made it this far, you are exactly the kind of viewer this channel was built for. Hit that like button so more people like you find this. Subscribe if you haven't. And tell me in the comments, what would you do if you found a photograph that proved someone you loved was alive when you knew they were dead? Would you go to the police? Or would you go to the lake? Michigan winters do not negotiate. In 2007, the temperature dropped to 28 degrees Fahrenheit on October 29th. It stayed below freezing for 11 consecutive days. By November 3rd, Meridian Lake had ice at the edges, 3 weeks earlier than the historical average. By November 7th, the ice was 6 inches thick at the center, solid enough to walk on, solid enough to drive on, solid enough to hide what the water could no longer hold. On November 8, 2007, Willow Whitmore purchased ice fishing equipment at the same Hartley's Hardware, where he had bought the shovel, the lime, and the bag 6 weeks earlier. He bought an auger, he bought a tent, he bought a folding chair, and he bought bait. The clerk remembered because Willow asked strange questions. How long does the ice stay thick? How deep is the water at the center? If something falls through in November, will it be there in April? The clerk thought he was asking about fish. The clerk was wrong. Willow Whitmore sat on that ice every day for 3 weeks. From November 8th to November 29th, he arrived at dawn. He left at dusk. He never caught a fish. He never put a line in the water. He simply sat and stared and waited. The other fishermen thought he was grieving. Detective Brown thought he was waiting for something to sink far enough that it would never rise. She watched him from the trees. She couldn't get closer without being seen, but she didn't need to be close. She could see his posture. She could see the way he leaned forward, staring into that hole like it was a television, like it was showing him something he needed to see. And she thought, he's checking. He's making sure. He's waiting for the ice to be thick enough that nothing underneath can break through. But what was underneath? We did not know then. We know now. Or rather, we are about to know. And what we are about to know will change the way you understand every moment that came before it. The photograph was analyzed by 3 independent forensic photographers. All confirmed. Genuine Polaroid film. Genuine 2007 stock. The newspaper was verified. The Grand Rapids Press, October 15, 2007, late edition. The cabin was verified. The woman was verified. Facial recognition against Lisa's DMV photo returned a 98% match. But the man was a ghost. The man's face was obscured by shadow, deliberate shadow. The forensic photographers noted, but his body was visible. And his body told a story. He was approximately 6 feet tall. He weighed approximately 220 pounds. He was white. He was male. He was 65 to 70 years old. And he was wearing Willow Whitmore's clothes. Willow, in present day, looks at the photograph. For the first time, something breaks in his face. he says. That's not me. I don't know who that is. Lisa had friends I didn't know. She had a whole life I didn't know. That's what I've been trying to tell you. She left, she planned it. She wanted me to suffer. She found someone, an older man, and she went with him, and she sent me that photograph. Or he sent it, to torture me, to prove she was alive when I thought she was dead. But if Lisa left, why did she leave her journal? Why did she leave her sister's box? Why did she leave her scarf in the mud, 200 yards from the water, where only a woman searching for truth would find it? And why, if she was alive and free and with a new lover, would she pose like a doll on a porch, holding a newspaper, wearing the same blue scarf she had worn the day she disappeared? The answer is she would not. The answer is Lisa Whitmore was not alive on October 15, 2007. Not in any meaningful sense. She was preserved. She was posed. She was made to participate in a fiction that would protect the man who had ended her life. And the man who posed her was not a lover. He was something far more dangerous. He was family. On November 12, 2007, 4 days after Willow began his vigil on the ice, a local farmer named Jed Calloway saw a truck on the lake at dusk. It was a Ford F-150, dark-colored. The light was failing. The truck stopped at the center, where the water was deepest. A man got out. He was wearing a heavy coat and a hat pulled low. He walked to the edge of a pre-existing fishing hole, Willow's hole, and he dropped something in, something heavy. It made a sound that Calloway described, 17 years later, as like a bag of wet laundry hitting concrete. Then the man got back in the truck and drove away. Calloway did not report it. It was not his business. It was just a man on the ice, doing what men on the ice do. Calloway, in present day, says he should have called someone. He knows he should have. But it was cold. He wanted his dinner. And he didn't see nothing wrong. Just a man dropping a bag in a hole. Could have been fish guts. Could have been trash. He didn't know. He didn't want to know. That's the truth. He didn't want to know. Jed Calloway did not want to know. But the lake knew. And in April of 2008, when the ice broke up and the water turned from black to brown to green, the lake gave up what it had been holding. It was not a body. It was a bag, heavy duty, contractor grade, the kind Willow Whitmore had bought on October 14th. It was weighted with stones. The stones were limestone, the kind used in landscaping, the kind sold at Hartley's Hardware. Inside the bag, women's clothing, size 8, Lisa's style, a blouse she had worn in a photograph from 2006, a pair of jeans, underwear, a bra, shoes. But no Lisa. The clothing was arranged carefully, folded, almost ritualistically, as if someone had dressed a woman, then removed the clothing, then preserved it, as if the clothing was a message, or a replacement, or an apology. Brown stood on that shore and looked at that bag and knew. She knew she was in the lake. She knew she had been in the lake since October. She knew the bag of clothes was a distraction, something to find, something to analyze, something to keep them busy while the real evidence stayed underwater. And she knew that Willow Whitmore had put it there, or someone had put it there for him. But the district attorney said no. The district attorney said, "You have no body. You have no weapon. You have a bag of clothes and a receipt and a man who cries at press conferences," she said. "He cries at press conferences because he knows cameras are watching. He doesn't cry when he's alone because there's no one to perform for." The district attorney said, "Grief isn't a crime, detective," she said. "Pretending to grieve is." The district attorney said, "Prove it." She couldn't, not then. But the lake was not done. The lake had been holding its breath since October 14, 2007, and in 2024, it would finally exhale. Detective Brown spent $47,000 of her retirement savings on a private dive team. She sold her car. She cashed in a life insurance policy. She told the dive master, Roberto Vance, that she was looking for a car, a 2004 blue sedan. She told him where to look. She told him how deep. She told him that if he found it, there would be a bonus. And if he found what was inside it, there would be something more valuable than money. There would be the end of a story. Vance says she gave him coordinates. She had been studying the lake floor for years. Satellite imagery, depth charts, sonar readings. She had a spot, one spot, a depression in the lake bed, 200 yards from where the scarf was found, directly in line with Willow's fishing hole. She said, if someone wanted to hide a car where it would never be found by accident, they would put it there. He asked her how she knew. She said, "Because I would put it there." He didn't ask what she meant. The divers entered the water. The surface broke. They disappeared. They searched for 6 hours. The water was 47 degrees at the surface, 38 degrees at depth. Visibility was 4 feet. At 140 feet, they found a beer can from 1987. At 160 feet, they found a child's bicycle. At 180 feet, they found the depression. And in the depression, they found the car. The sonar pinged. The radio crackled. Roberto, we have a vehicle. 4-door sedan. Color, hard to tell. Dark blue, maybe. License plate visible. Michigan, 2000 for registration. There's Roberto. There's someone inside. The diver's light illuminates the driver's side window. A face, Lisa's face, preserved by the cold and the depth. Her eyes are closed. Her hair drifts. She is not alone. There's two people in here. Female in the passenger seat. Male in the driver's seat. His head is turned toward her. He's looking at her. He's been looking at her for 17 years. The male figure. His face is preserved. White, bloated but recognizable. Older, heavy. The jaw is wrong. The hair is white. It is the man from the photograph. The man in the driver's seat was not Willow Whitmore. He was older, heavier. His face, preserved by the cold, was the face from the Polaroid. The face that had stood in the cabin doorway. The face that had worn Willow's ring. And now, finally, we would learn his name. And his name would change everything we thought we knew about loyalty, blood, and the lies that fathers tell their sons. We are approaching the end. If you have stayed with this story, through the receipts, through the boots, through the ice, through the dive, you are part of something now. You are a witness, and witnesses have a responsibility. Hit that like button, share this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, who do you think the man in the car is? I have read every theory, every guess, and I promise you, not one of you has guessed the truth. Not yet. They found Lisa Whitmore on October 14th, 2024, 17 years to the day after she disappeared. She was in the passenger seat of her own car, 187 feet below the surface of the lake she had walked toward. The man in the driver's seat was not Willow Whitmore. He was older. He had Willow's ring. He had Willow's eyes. But he was not Willow. The medical examiner ran DNA. The DNA matched. Paternal relationship. Father and son. The man in the driver's seat was Arthur Whitmore. Arthur Whitmore died in 2001, 3 years before Lisa disappeared. Or so the record said. Arthur Whitmore was declared dead in 2001. His son, Willow, reported a fishing accident off Lake Huron. No body was recovered. Willow collected a $400,000 life insurance policy. He held a small memorial service. He scattered ashes, whose ashes we do not know, into the water, and he went on with his life. Except Arthur Whitmore was not dead. Arthur Whitmore had been living in the cabin Willow sold, to a dead man, to himself, to his father, who was very much alive and very much in need of hiding. Arthur Whitmore had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2000. The prognosis was 18 months. The treatment was expensive. The insurance would not cover experimental procedures. And so Arthur and Willow devised a plan. Arthur would die on paper. Willow would collect the insurance. The money would pay for treatments. And Arthur would live, hidden, in the cabin, until the cancer was beaten or until the money ran out. The cancer was not beaten, but the money did not run out. Because Catherine Marsh, Arthur's mistress from 30 years prior, had a son, Arthur's son, and Arthur, facing death, wanted to provide. So the payments continued, $4,000 a month, from a shell company, from Willow, from a dead man. Lisa found the money. Lisa found Catherine. Lisa found the child. And Lisa, being a forensic accountant, being a woman who believed in paper trails more than she believed in marriage, prepared to report it all. Insurance fraud, tax evasion, identity falsification. She was not going to confront Willow. She was going to the FBI. She had an appointment. October 16, 2007, 2 days after she disappeared. But she never made that appointment, because on October 14th, Arthur Whitmore asked to speak with her. Arthur, who was supposed to be dead. Arthur, who Willow had told her was dead. Arthur, who had been living 12 miles away for 6 years. Arthur asked Willow to bring her to the cabin. Arthur said, "Let me talk to her. I'll make her understand. I'll make her see that I'm just a sick old man who wanted to live." Willow believed him. Willow always believed his father. Willow, in the final interview, says he told her his father was alive. He told her he was sick. He told her he wanted to explain. He told her he was sorry. She was angry. She was so angry, but she was also compassionate. She said, "If he's dying, Willow, he should die with dignity, not in a cabin, not in hiding." She didn't know. She didn't know that he wasn't dying anymore. The cancer had gone into remission in 2005. He had been healthy for 2 years. He had been hiding for 2 years after he needed to hide, because he liked hiding, because it gave him power, because it made him feel like God. Arthur was wearing Willow's clothes, Willow's boots, Willow's ring, not because he was impersonating his son, but because he and Willow were the same size, because Willow had left clothes at the cabin, because Arthur had no clothes of his own. He had been dead for 6 years, and dead men do not shop. But the effect was unmistakable. From a distance, in the morning light, Arthur looked like Willow. Lisa thought he was Willow, until she was close enough to see the white hair, the heavy jaw, the eyes that were Willow's eyes, but older, colder. Lisa's voice, reconstructed from her journal, from testimony, from the tape. "You're not sick. You're not dying. You've been hiding. You've been taking money. You've been living while I thought you were ashes. And Willow knew. Willow brought me here. Willow let me think." Willow stands by the car. He does not move toward her. He watches. He says, "I didn't know what he was going to do. I swear to you. And I know my word means nothing now. I did not know. I thought he would beg. I thought he would cry. I thought he would offer to turn himself in, to make restitution, to face the consequences like a man. That is what I believed my father was, a man who faced consequences. But he wasn't. He was a man who made consequences disappear. And I watched him do it. I watched him take her arm. I watched him walk her toward the lake. I watched him put her in the car. And I did not stop him, because I was afraid, because I had already chosen him, because I had been choosing him since I was 6 years old, and he told me that family protects family, no matter what. And I believed him. I believed him until the moment he drove that car into the water, and then I believed him again, when he surfaced, and he looked at me, and he said, "Now we are both dead men, and dead men do not talk." The car enters the lake. The water closes over it. Arthur swims back. Willow stands on the shore. They look at each other. 2 dead men. The photograph. The photograph that Detective Brown found. The photograph that showed Lisa alive on October 15th. It was taken by Arthur. After she was dead, he preserved her. The cold cabin, the autumn air, it kept her intact for hours. He dressed her. He posed her. He put the newspaper in her hands. And he took the photograph. Not to torture Willow, not to prove she was alive, but as insurance, as a threat, as a way of saying, "If you ever tell anyone, I will release this. I will say you killed her. I will say you posed with her body. I will say you drove her to the lake and watched her drown. And who will believe you over a dead man?" Arthur Whitmore was not a grieving father. He was not a sick old man. He was a predator who had discovered that death was the perfect disguise. And for 6 years, he had been hiding in plain sight, 12 miles from the town that mourned him, 12 miles from the son who protected him, 12 miles from the life he had destroyed. He was not dead. He was simply waiting. And on October 14th, 2007, he stopped waiting. In present day, Willow sits at his kitchen table. 4 places. But now he is removing them, one by one. He says, "I didn't kill her. I didn't know he would kill her. But I knew she was gone. And I knew I couldn't tell anyone. Because if I told them Arthur was alive, they would ask where he was. And if they found him, they would find the fraud. And if they found the fraud, they would find me. So I grieved. I grieved because I was guilty. I grieved because I was relieved. I grieved because I didn't know what else to do. I set the table because some part of me thought if I pretended long enough, it would become true. She would come home. We would eat. We would be normal. And every night, for 6,205 nights, I sat across from an empty chair and I talked to her. I told her about my day. I told her I was sorry. I told her I didn't know. And sometimes I almost believed she answered. Willow removes the last plate. The table is empty. He looks at it. He weeps. Willow Whitmore was arrested on November 3, 2024. Not for murder. Arthur committed the murder. Arthur is dead. Truly dead now. Drowned in the car he drove into the lake. Preserved by the cold he used to hide his crimes. Willow was arrested for insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, obstruction of justice, an accessory after the fact. He will not spend the rest of his life in prison. He will spend 15 years, maybe 10, with good behavior, and then he will be 68 years old, and he will have to learn how to set a table for one. Willow is led away in handcuffs. He looks back at the house, at the lake, at the life he performed. Detective Brown stands by the lake. Present day, October 14th. The anniversary. She is alone. She opens her wallet. She removes a photograph. Lisa, alive, smiling, from a DMV photo. She says, "I spent 17 years believing Willow was a killer. He wasn't. He was something worse. He was a man who loved his father more than his wife, who chose loyalty over truth, who set a table for a dead woman because it was easier than admitting he helped bury her." Lisa Whitmore was a forensic accountant. She found what people hid, and what she found cost her everything. I keep her photograph in my wallet, not because I solved the case, because I didn't, not in time, not when it mattered, but I kept looking, and she kept leaving breadcrumbs, and eventually, the lake gave her up, and I was there to see it. That is all I can offer now. Presence, witness, the thing she asked for in her tape, visibility. Brown throws something into the lake. It is not a wallet. It is a ring. Willow's college ring. It sinks. The ring sinks. The water closes over it. The lake keeps its secrets, but it has given up the ones that mattered. And now, finally, we let Lisa speak. Sunrise over the lake, calm. The water is gold. Lisa's voice. Reading from her journal. The final entry. The one she wrote the night before she walked into the woods. "I know what they've done. I know what he's hidden. I know who Catherine is. And I know that if I disappear, nobody will believe I didn't just leave. So I'm leaving evidence. I'm leaving this journal. I'm leaving my sister. I'm leaving a trail that only a woman would follow, because only a woman would know to look for the things men hide in plain sight. If you're reading this, I'm sorry, and I'm grateful, and I hope the lake is warmer than it looks. And I really hope, that someone believes me, even if it takes 17 years. Lisa's face, finally shown fully, alive, smiling, real. She looks at the camera. She looks at us. Lisa Whitmore was 37 years old. She liked strong coffee, weak men, and crossword puzzles. She was a sister. She was an accountant. She was a woman who knew too much. And now, finally, she is known. She is seen. She is not a missing person. She is not a cold case. She is Lisa, and she is remembered. Fade to black. Then, photographs. Lisa as a child. Lisa at her wedding. Lisa at her desk. Lisa by the lake, alive, always alive in the remembering. The piano melody returns, complete, resolved, beautiful and devastating. If you have watched this story, if you have sat with us for 90 minutes, you are not a viewer, you are a witness, and witnesses have a responsibility. Share this story. Tell someone about Lisa. And if you are a woman who has ever been told you were troubled when you were angry, depressed when you were informed, paranoid when you were right, I want you to know that your voice matters, even if it takes 17 years to be heard. Even if it takes a dive team, and a retired detective and a stranger on the internet, your voice matters. Lisa's voice matters. And now, thanks to you, it will never be silent again. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like. Comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Tell me if this story changed the way you look at empty chairs. Tell me if you'll think of Lisa the next time you see a lake. Because I will. I think of her every day. This has been The House on Meridian Lake. I'm your narrator. And I will see you at the next story. In memory of the women who knew, and the women who looked.